Fuck it, we'll do it live. Hey, everybody. Why not? Why not? After the day we've had today, why not just dive into it and, let's go. Let's get into it. This podcast coming to you is a new version of The Darkest Hour that I have been relentlessly encouraged to do recently. By none other than my very good friend, Mr. Sam Tripoli, who said, listen, man, you got to start taking these rants, these Twitter rants, these Facebook rants and stuff. You got to start putting them on YouTube. You got to start putting them in a place so that, people can hear your words and not let you be taken out of context. And he's so right. So here we are broadcasting. And I don't know if anybody's going to join. This is unplanned. This is unprepared, but this is me going off the cuff, man. Today, real fun interaction on Twitter, which if you follow me there and you know me, you know that I am never one to pull punches with people regardless of their status or their this is weird because I'm looking at myself and I'm like monitoring it, but then I'm not looking into the camera. And then if I look into the camera, I just feel like I look like a zombie talking to you people. Here's what I'll do. I'll move the browser over so that that I look like, you ever talk to somebody and they look at your face, but they're not looking you in the eye. They're looking at something on your face or your tits. If you're like me, they're just staring and it's like, you're looking at me, but you're not looking at me. What are you looking at? And then you're insecure all day about what that person is actually looking at. That's what this will be. But as you know, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm not afraid to get in the mix and mix it up with other celebrities. And I say other celebrities using that term very loosely because I am far from one of those. But, as far as verified people go on Twitter, I am not afraid to get in and mix it up with people who I think have terrible takes or terrible ideas. And the person today that I got in the mix with was none other than comedian Sarah Silverman. And listen, this is the thing that kind of scares me. I want to point this out to everybody in this first episode of Solitary Confinement, okay? The challenge with believing or being partisan in any way, the challenge with thinking, well, I'm on the side of good or you're on the side of bad or any of that stuff, or as Rogan says, like the problem with thinking in terms of teams is that when your team might be wrong or cheating, Patriots, you aren't going to know, or maybe you're not even going to give the opportunity to find out that is the case. And we went through this with Deflategate. We went through this with so many things. We went through this in the MLB when there was rampant cheating in the MLB. The fans of those teams that were eventually implicated were like, no fucking way. There's no way there's any cheating or whatsoever. Okay. And then there are people that are fans of baseball in that process going, I don't like either of those teams. I don't care who won the series. What I care about is integrity in baseball. And I care about integrity in a lot of things, particularly in our supposed free and fair elections. And so when I see a celebrity like Sarah Silverman, who has a massive following, go online and go, everything that was done is, let me not misquote her, by the way. Let me go in and just say exactly what was said. She said, let me pull it up. I should have had this pulled up. This is all very last minute. This is what concerns me, okay? She says, Biden won the popular vote. Biden won the Electoral College. Every vote was counted. No illegitimate votes were counted. Okay. I know your guy won, and I hope you guys like my purple grimace lighting. I know you guys won. But to sit here and say that we live in a country where 9/11 happened, where the JFK assassination happened, where Jeffrey Epstein happened, where all of these other things, and then people are going to go, what is this, a conspiracy podcast? It's not. But sometimes the conspiracy theorists get it right. When there are enough instances in American history that make you go, I don't know about that, it's incredibly fucking dangerous for you with a platform to say, you know what? This is all above board. This is fine. This is all legitimate, whatever. And the problem is, it's not just celebrities saying that. It's the mainstream media. It's literally Twitter. Anytime somebody says, like, this is interesting, here's a video of a man in Missouri shitting on ballots. And they just go, this is flagged for suspicious. And you're watching a man shit into a bucket of ballots, and he's like, yeah, no, these Trump ballots, and he's shitting in them and then feeding the shit ballots to a family of sharks, and people are going, we got to flag this. This is probably not real. And it's like, yo, we're looking at it, and it's probably a very strange thing to orchestrate, and it's definitely the weirdest kind of pornography I've ever enjoyed. But you can't show the American people that there is smoke and then tell us that there's no fucking fire. You can't do it. And we've seen smoke for the last, I don't know, 100 years of our elections. Go back to Kennedy. Go back to Kennedy-Nixon. Somebody asked this question in the Twitter thread earlier, and they were like, oh, you don't think that it's been rigged the other way? Yes, I absolutely believe it's been rigged in every way possible. I believe what Carlin said in one of his specials in the 90s, that your vote doesn't matter, that the owners of this country decide who the president is, and they're doing it now. The difference is they used to do it without your participation behind closed doors, and now they're creating a world and spinning a narrative where you agree, where they're making you think it's your idea. That's what scares me. That's what makes me concerned about the way this whole thing is happening. At the end of the day, whoever the president is going to affect me a little bit, but not a lot. I'm way more concerned about this fucking insane man that is running the state of California right now. This dude is literally the real-life Harvey Dent. I am way more concerned about Gavin Newsom than I am about who ends up becoming the president. This state has been shut down for almost a year. Nobody's working. Businesses are closed. All of my friends that own restaurants, almost all of my comedian friends, they're all out of money. They're all having to turn to other things to make money. It's not a good time in California, but I'm also not completely dumb to the fact that it's not a good time a lot of places. But don't you think that can be used against you? Don't you think for a second that how bad this is and how bad you interpret it is constantly being used against you and trying to push your vote? So at the very least, when people go, oh, this is a completely free and fair election, it's not. It's been influenced for the last 4 years with everything the media has covered. It's been influenced severely for the last year with everything that the left has covered and everything that they've tried to lay on Trump's lap as a problem. I don't care about red and blue. I care about truth versus manipulation. And when the entire world seems to be massaging the same concepts and the same ideas into the American people, I am sorry, but I'm wired to raise my hand and go, wait a minute, this doesn't smell right. Every single time, like they'll literally show video of a Trump press conference or Giuliani or Secretary of State Pompeo or somebody, and they'll be like, we have the receipts right here. And they'll start to hold up a receipt, and then they're like, we're cutting away from this coverage because it's like, do you not see that's fucking propaganda? That's like China. That would be like people being executed in Korea and someone starts to show it and they cut away from it. Like, our freedom of the press is being robbed in front of your very fucking eyes, and you're willing to look away from it because the guy in the White House is not nice, and he says mean things about people, and he's not handsome like Obama, and he's not 30 years younger, and he's not eloquent at the podium, and he does all these buffoonish things. Okay, but don't be so fucking stupid that you throw out logic and reason entirely, to where you just go like, yeah, dude, the official narrative. Like, I've said this to my friends in private circles a bunch, and I've probably put this on Twitter a lot. We live in the Matrix now. And so many of you need to question, am I Cypher? Am I happy being plugged in and being told that I'm eating steak and being told that it's delicious and being told that my life is this thing that I've created? Or do you live in Zion, where shit is rough and you're hunted every day, but at least you know it's real and true? And the world, the country, is divided into those two places right now. There are a bunch of you that are totally fine being plugged into the Matrix. There are a bunch of you that are happy being fed fake digital steak, as long as your imaginary world doesn't get disrupted. And the rest of us are sitting here looking at, we find ourselves in Zion by our own choices or not, right? Some people got unplugged unwillingly. Some people chose to live in Zion because that's their path. That's where they want to go. But there is a portion of us that are willing to look at things objective and realistically. And then there are the rest of you that are willing to like watch what people have fought to make this country eradicated because you're getting your way. You can't just ignore truth and possibility when you're getting your way. And that's the problem I had with what Sarah Silverman said. I don't have a problem with her guy winning. I don't have a problem with her having this opinion that differs from mine. I have a problem with the statement of there's nothing to see here. It's like Officer Barbrady from South Park. You can't look at these things and go, yo, man, there's nothing to see here. And nobody is saying what to do if we do find fraud. Nobody's saying, well, if we investigate and we find out this is what we should do. Or if we investigate and we find out that, this is what we should do. Or I believe if we investigate, nothing's really going to come to light. That's great. That would be great. What's happening is people are trying to tell you that there's nothing to investigate. There's never been anything to investigate. It's all above board. It's all fine. Do you know how you know when your tax man is fucking you out of money? When he tells you that you don't need to hire another auditor to audit his work. And it shouldn't surprise you that people in Hollywood think this way. This is how they get taken for the ride. This is how they get all their fucking money embezzled from them. This is how Dane Cook lost all of his money. Because I guarantee you, any time he went to somebody and said, I think my brother might be stealing from me, I should maybe audit him. It's like, you don't need to audit me, baby. I'm family. I mean, they're going to anybody who's unwilling to pursue investigation is they know something's wrong. And so you have to ask yourself as a smart, common sense American, and this goes for Sarah Silverman too, you have to ask yourself, am I smart enough to just sit back and believe that because it's what I want? Listen, I loved the Philadelphia Eagles won a Super Bowl in 2017. And yes, I'm rubbing that in your face, Matt Savage. But the point is, if I found out that they were all juiced the fuck up and that they had stolen the script from the other side and that they had cheated their way into winning that Super Bowl, I wouldn't want them to keep the trophy. This is the problem. And this is why people on the right are saying, like, we have to fight for our democracy and we have to fight for truth and we have to fight for reality, is because I'm fine with the other side going, investigate away, motherfucker, you ain't going to find shit. I have a problem with them saying, you don't have to investigate. There's nothing to investigate. There's no reason to investigate. Don't investigate. You know who used to say that all the time? Guilty people. You know who does that? Guilty people. And so when the entire mainstream media, major A-list celebrities, everybody who benefits from this going their way tells me there's no proof, there's nothing to see, you shouldn't even be investigating, then I have a concern, right? It's like, I wanted it to be real when George Bush won in 2000. I didn't vote in 2000. I was too young. But in 2000, I didn't want there to be fuckery in that election. And I think we all agree that there probably was. There probably was fuckery in Florida. And they probably fucked Al Gore out of the presidency. Now, who knows what Al Gore for 8 years and during and to be honest, we don't know if Al Gore was president, 9/11 might not have ever happened. Here's some real conspiracy shit for you to think of. If you believe that Dick Cheney had anything to do with 9/11, then you have to know that that rigged election might have cost us all of those lives in New York in 2001. And so for you to believe a sliver of any of that, you have to know that there's got to be some fire behind this smoke. There's got to be. We know that our government is capable of doing things that we're not cool with and that they don't think they need our consent to do. So if you know that for a sliver, you have to be willing and open-minded to the fact that here's the question you have to ask. Is there an incentive, or does anyone have the motivation to fuck Trump out of the election? Yeah. If you look around, every political talking head from the left has said for the last 4 years, we're going to do whatever it takes to get him out. It's like that scene in Avengers Endgame when they're all looking at each other and like, whatever it takes. And yes, if we have to throw, I believe 100% that the left all got together and said, listen, if we have to throw Scarlett Johansson off a fucking cliff to get this guy out of office, we're going to do it. We hope it's Jeremy Renner. But if it has to be Scarlett Johansson, so be it. And that's the world we live in now. So I'm telling you, man, it's like when they tell you there's nothing to see here, that's what should concern you, not the results, not whether you got what you wanted or the guy that you got in. You should be questioning, why are they telling us that there's absolutely no legitimacy to it? And how could you possibly believe that there was legitimacy to a hacking in 2016? There's been a million documentaries about how the election was hacked in 2016. You don't believe it could go the other way? You don't think for a second that they could just use what they might have learned from the Russia hack, if that was real, in 2016 to just swing it their way? And then people go, why wouldn't they do the Senate too? Why wouldn't they just rig the whole thing? Well, it's very simple. Look at every heist movie from throughout the history of mankind, right? When do the bank robbers die in the heist movie? They die and they get caught when they try to take all of it. The guys who get away take a little bit over here, or they take a big chunk over here while they leave this over there, or they distract you with this while they take this. It's like the Superman 3 virus, whatever, the thing from Office Space about pulling little percentages of transactions. And a skim can go on way longer than a heist, okay? So at the end of the day, you gotta realize that there are legit concerns about this for people. And if any of your American friends or anybody involved in this think that there is something to look at, then as a fellow citizen of this country, you should be willing to investigate that. You should be willing to go, yeah, man, this isn't right. And we should be willing to look at it, whether it's legit or not. I mean, we live in a time of social media where people are literally sharing on Snapchat, on TikTok, that they're doing things to manipulate at the polls. They're doing things that are swinging the election, maybe by a little bit, maybe by a lot. You don't know how many ballots these fucking people are touching. I mean, when you see things like that, your concern should be that the whole fucking process is vulnerable. And we've known that for a long time, but I think we're finally at a junction. And listen, if Biden ends up keeping the presidency, but these investigations lead to us completely overhauling the way that we vote, I'm fine with it. I really am. That's what I want. I want a voting thing that I feel good about, right? And every time you go, like, let's just move it all online, people go, no, that'll get hacked even worse. That'll be even worse. I mean, listen, the amount of information you people willingly share on the internet, and you're worried about who you voted for getting leaked. You know why you're worried about that? And you're not worried about people getting your financial records or any of that shit or your social security number? Because of the world you created where who you voted for can render you homeless. Do you not understand? Do you not understand that it's because of the world that you created that now you have to worry about who you voted for being leaked? Is because now we live in a society where if your boss is conservative and they found out you voted for a liberal, or vice versa, that your well-being, your job could be at stake. That's the world we've allowed to exist because of things like this, because we're just willfully ignorant. We're willfully ignorant to the world around us and to everything it's shown us. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are just sort of tired of participating in willful ignorance. They're just not willing to look at these things anymore and go, oh, yeah, it's not that important, or it's not that big, because it's becoming more important. It's landing on our doorstep every day, and it's affecting you. Like, you don't think for a second that knowing how things would turn out for me, that I wouldn't have been more politically involved 20 years ago, and I wouldn't have been more engaged 20 years ago if I saw all this writing on the wall of, eventually it's going to get to a point. And this is another thing that Silverman said that bugged me, where she goes, this could go a lot of different ways. This could be, this could go, you have the choice as a comedian. There's consequences now. You can go way safer or way riskier. It's like, yeah, that's not a world with free thought. if what you can say and do is influenced by potential consequences, then you're not free. That's not freedom. And for people to go, well, you just can't be, you just can't be, you just can't be in the public eye in any way, or have a day job if you want to be in the public eye anyway, because what you say and what you do is going to be manipulated and taken out of context. And if people don't like what you say, even if it's done sarcastically or satirically, you're going to be crucified for it. And so, yeah, I think that's why people are concerned about this world we're creating, where truth has to mean something. Truth has to mean something. And I'm kidding has to matter. Okay? So we can't get to a world where we just take everything out of context and we just assign a narrative that we want to it and ignore truth. And that's what's happening with this election. That's what's dangerous about it, is that because the media got what they wanted and a ton of celebrities got what they wanted, and everybody who has essentially large audiences and a huge megaphone got what they wanted, they're just silencing any opposition, or they're writing it off as conspiracy theory, or they're saying that it's delusional, or they're saying that there's no merit to it. And, that doesn't lead to a good place. And here's the scary thing. Do you know where that leads? That leads to that side feeling so fucking silenced that what is the only thing that breaks the silence throughout the history of human civilization? Do you know what breaks the silence? Violence. That's where it leads. It leads to that side going, okay, well, if we don't have any media outlets to share our point of view, and we don't have anyone pulling for us behind the scenes, and we don't have any place to go with our thoughts and ideas, I guess we just have to kill everybody that doesn't agree with us, right? And you see that in other more savage parts of the world, where they're constantly in civil war, they're constantly fighting. One side gets power, the other side tries to overthrow it. Then that side has power for a while, and eventually the other side rallies and pulls more people and gets more shit together, and then they overthrow it. This is a cycle of civil war that will go on forever until we all agree that we got to at least have some fucking barometer, some totem, to use a reference to the movie Inception, some totem that we can all agree on is reality, is some center place where we go, okay, like we have to be willing to have, it's sort of like the Marcus of Queensberry rules in boxing, right? And boxers used to argue that MMA is savage because there were no Marcus of Queensberry rules. It was more, you could do anything. You could be, you could be whatever you like. You could just fight any way you want. That's savage. There's got to be rules. There's got to be restrictions. That they thought MMA was too violent. And so my father used to say, there are no Marcus of Queensberry rules in a street fight. And so, basically what he's saying is when you get to a point where you kind of remove all of the things that we sort of agree on as a society, and now we agree on nothing, and we can't even agree on when there should be grounds for something being investigated further, or when we should maybe stop just assuming what we're being told is true. We start to lose our grip on reality, and we'll turn to this cycle of never-ending civil war, never-ending fighting and battling and all of this shit. So, it's a scary thing to be looking at as a creative guy and saying, wow, man, like if most of the country is sort of willing to just turn a blind eye because they're getting what they want, then where does comedy live in that world, right? Because if we live in a world where we want to be able to dictate consequences and change reality because we don't like something, where does that end? And how does comedy live in that space? How do you do something satirical or silly or funny when at any point anybody can just say that it's something it's not and completely change the perspective and completely, affect your livelihood, affect, your ability to make a living? And, it's so funny. Like Sarah's like, yeah, it's just going to be riskier to do that. Well, yeah, but how does that work? Because like when I started in 2006, I did way riskier shit. Some of my friends in the chat were there the very first night I did comedy, my buddy Joel. When I first started, I was way, way more offensive, way less funny than I am today. Because I was learning and I didn't really know how to craft a joke. Some might say I still don't. But I didn't really get the concept, but I knew that I had these fucked up ideas and I knew that I wanted to put them somewhere. And so in that process of doing that, you learn and you sharpen and you get better. But if I were to post, which I might do, old YouTube videos of like my very first sets on in stand up, and at the very least, when I started, I knew that I probably had to document it and record it so that I would ever get better at it, because I knew that if I went back and rewatched my stand up in the beginning, that I would be like, you're terrible and you need to get better and you need to learn things. And so I almost recorded like every set I did for the first year and then stupidly posted them all on YouTube and eventually took them down. But the point is, if you did that today, and while you're learning to be a comedian and you're taking risks, and even this is the thing that nobody even thinks about. People watching you do stand-up or watching you do anything artistic is like people watching you fuck. And you definitely don't want anybody watching you do it the first couple of times. And so imagine, even if you're not offensive, even if you're just cringy and shitty, and your boss sees that, that can permanently affect the way that they view you, that can permanently affect the way they see you. You know, and while that's always been a concern, I don't think we ever had gotten to a point in society where people would just go, we'll fire you for it. I mean, when I worked at Crocs in 2006, I was a comedian almost the entire time I worked there. I was there for 6 years. It never got brought up in a way at work ever. 2006 to 2012, the only time I ever even discussed my comedic endeavors at work was I did have a couple managers a few times just look up where I was going to be and come out. And they had a good time and they had fun. And you know, they maybe brought up in the office again, like, yeah, man, that was a really great time. And that was it. That was the extent of it. And the funny thing is, the managers that came to see me were Black and Latino, and they all had a great time. So the crazy thing about that is 6 years there, okay, and then another year and a half, 2 years at Sean John, all Black people. And it never came up. It never came up once. And then times change, and now it's sort of the only thing that I'm known for. And the amazing thing about it is I haven't done it successfully enough to only do that, but I've done it at a level enough to where it's very easy to see it, and it's very easy to cast judgment based off of that. And listen, this might not be you, and this might not affect you in your mind the way it affects me. And some of you might think, well, dude, you made that choice. That is what it is. You're going to have to live with it. But the point is, it's going to come down the slope eventually, right? Like, I'm not that well known. Even guys that are even less well known are going to have problems. And even people that are fans of podcasts that are commenting on fucked up shit are going to start getting fucked. You're going to start having people, as they look you up, as they find your shit, they're going to see what you're doing, and they're going to just make a judgment off of it. And you're going to lose your job at some fucking machine shop because your boss thinks you're a Nazi, because you liked a tweet. Or they're going to think you're some fucking crazy socialist BLM activist because you retweeted Tariq Nasheed, who made a good point about something. It's like, you know, you just got to understand, man, that this is a slippery slope, and it's going to come for everybody. And you can gloat. If you don't like me, you can gloat about the fact that it's fucking me over and that my life is hard because of it. That's fine. You're going to have your day too, motherfucker. You're all going to have your day. You're all going to have your day where this shit catches up to you and affects you. And then that's your world. That's what you're going to be stuck with. You're going to be stuck with dealing with this reality. And so you can't be biased. You can't go, I love cancel culture when it fucks up people I don't like. Eventually, it's going to fuck up the people you like. Eventually, it's going to fuck up your family. It's going to fuck up your well-being. It's going to fuck up your life. And so, you know, it's going to come to get you, man. And that's the world I don't want to live in. I don't want to live in a world that is, you know, obsessed with things that aren't true. Like all of the, you know, people that troll me about shit that isn't true that's happening in the chat right now. I see you guys. I'm just not going to respond. I'm just going to go in and delete all your shit when it's over, and you can have your fun, and you can keep fucking sharing shit and showing shit that is not true and not real and not accurate. You just keep making up lies. It's just like the world we live in, man. You know, and I think I've decided at this point that, like, I'm not going to give any energy to disinformation. Like, I'm not giving any energy to shit that is completely based in non-truths. I'm not giving any energy to shit that is just part of a big snowballing narrative that isn't real, it isn't based in facts, comes from some fucking idiot who doesn't really know me. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to participate in it. So, you know, and that kind of mentality, it doesn't just exist with online trolls that are fans of other podcasts. It exists everywhere now. You look everywhere. You look Twitter. It's the whole fucking thing. Oh, I can't believe these people think this was a stolen election. Oh, this is all, you know, this is all coming out. This is all bullshit. Don't look over here. Look over here. It's all a fucking ruse, man. You guys are being fooled. You're being 100% fooled, and you don't even see it. And again, some of you just like being part of a thing. Like, some of you just want to be part of the team that you think is winning, even though nothing that group does is benefiting you in any way whatsoever. You just want to be on what you think is the right side of history. The funny thing about wanting to be on the right side of history is nobody really knows what the right side is until it's long history. So you really just don't know. You're never going to know. So at the end of the day, just try to do what you think is right. That's all you can do. And you just got to keep fighting for what you believe in. And that's what I do. And whether people like that or not, I could give a fuck. All right? I could give a fuck whether people like it or not, or agree or not. It's what I think is right. And enough people agree and find it entertaining, so I'll keep doing these. I appreciate that you guys tuned in, and I appreciate whether you like me or not. Thanks for tuning in. And, you know, thanks for following along on Twitter. Thanks for doing all that stuff. A couple housekeeping things. There'll be some new episodes of The Darkest Hour dropping today. One of which was the last episode I did with Kevin Kotzman. I think that's how you say his name. I think it's one of the best episodes of Darkest Hour we've ever done. Really great guest, really engaging guest. That one will be out today. And then I guess the first episode of this, which I did last week because I had a guest not show up, but I kind of did like a solitary rant or whatever at that time. But I'm going to be putting these episodes out as a separate thing, just called Solitary Confinement. Just going to be me talking about whatever I want to talk about. And ideally, going forward, I'm going to, you know, plot out some different talking points or different topics, things I want to go over that I think will be fun. And, you know, at the very least, this will give me the opportunity to keep putting out some stuff, to have content on a regular basis, because it's just, quite frankly, a little difficult sometimes to nail people down to come do shows. I mean, everybody's got their own shit going on. Everybody's trying to figure out how to do things and how to navigate the COVID world, how to make a living, you know, so that's a challenging thing for a lot of people, and I'm sympathetic to it. I understand. I'm dealing with it too, man. So I hope you guys enjoy, and stay tuned. There'll be lots more of these. And by the way, I don't give a fuck how many trolls are in the chat. I'm going to keep doing these. You guys keep obsessing over my life. If you are watching me instead of living your own life or doing your own thing or making your own content, I win. It's that simple. Enjoy.